everybody, welcome to NoDQ&A video here on NoDQ.com. I am the owner of NoDQ Aaron Rift. Hope you're all having a good Halloween weekend. Got a lot of questions to answer, so let's get right down into them. Hey Aaron, will we see Kane come back to face Mark Henry for the World Championship at WrestleMania 28, or will it be at TLC? Thanks. I think it's definitely a possibility that we will see Kane back in the near future. It could happen at TLC. It could happen as late as WrestleMania 28. I'm really not sure, but I had a good idea regarding it. I'll get to that in just a little bit. I know back in the day the complaint was that wrestling was too gimmicky and too cartoonish, yet people like me are finding this reality era to be just as bad. I mean, it would be fine if everybody had some kind of personality to spare, but nope. Okay, here's my take on that. It's not so much the character, like if it's too cartoonish or if it's too realistic. That's not the problem. The problem is not whether the company is PG or whether it's TV-14. What matters is the quality of the product. Do the storylines make sense? Are the characters developed properly? Those are the problems there. So with WWE right now, it's all a matter of having storylines that get people into it to the point where they're willing to spend money on the product. There needs to be some sort of emotional investment in what they're watching. So that's what the issue is. And yeah, I mean, definitely there's some work that could be done in WWE right now in terms of developing storylines and not changing plans every single week, and building up the characters more and letting them get some wins. And when guys win a match on pay-per-view and then they lose the next night, it doesn't really build them up at all. So, yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Hey, Aaron, who would you book to win the 2012 Royal Rumble, and who would you have them face for the title? Okay, going back to earlier, I would like to see Kane pick up a win at the Royal Rumble. For several years, going back to like 2001 and onward, Kane has always been a dominant force in the Royal Rumble, but he's never actually won it. So I think it would be really cool to have him come back, maybe with a mask, and pull off a big win at the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania to face Mark Henry. Now, I know there's the whole situation with Bryan. What they could do is have Bryan cash it in as planned for WrestleMania and make it a triple threat match. And then you could even have Bryan win the title by pinning Kane. Therefore, they don't have to beat Mark Henry. But there's a lot of different ways they could go with that. But in regards to the Royal Rumble, that would be my personal pick. As far as who's going to actually win, I have no clue. And I still think it's too early to try to make some sort of solid prediction on that. But even if it was January and I was predicting, I would probably be wrong anyways. And here's the next question regarding Daniel Bryan. With Daniel Bryan intending to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania, who do you see Bryan facing, and do you think he will win, considering a Money in the Bank briefcase equals automatic win? Well, as I've said before, I think it's pretty obvious that Bryan's actually going to win the title because, as history has shown, the Money in the Bank winner ends up going on like some sort of losing streak before they win the title, and that's just a weird way that WWE likes to book it, I guess, to try to see if the guy's going to pay his dues or whatever before he gets the title. But it's kind of silly, but that's how WWE does it, and I would be surprised at this point if Bryan did not get the title, considering how much he's been losing on TV lately. Yeah, I mean, if he loses, it's just, that's really bad for him. But yeah, I think he's going to win it. And like I said before, if they do like a triple threat match, they could have it so Bryan beats Kane instead of Mark Henry. And therefore, they don't have to have Bryan beat Mark Henry, which I'm not really sure they're crazy about doing. I think they would feel better having Kane take the fall. But we'll see what happens. That's just an idea out there. Hey, Aaron, what did you think about Survivor Series 2003? Good pay-per-view overall. I really liked the Steve Austin's team versus Eric Bischoff's team. Winner gets sold GM ship, and of course Austin ended up losing and in his hometown, and he's out there doing his retirement speech, which was kind of funny. And I also remember Vince McMahon versus Undertaker. I remember about 10 seconds into the match, Vince getting like, oh my God, he just got busted open so badly, and he was just gushing out blood like 10 seconds into the match. It was insane. And then, of course, Kane came out at the end and cost Undertaker. Oh, and the Kane Shane McMahon's was it an ambulance match? I think that was a good match too. So yeah, it was very solid Survivor Series pay-per-view. Hey Aaron, I'm sure you've been asked this before, but what is your all-time favorite feud? Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, no doubt about it. That feud helped launch the Attitude Era, and it was just so intense, and you really believed that those two guys hated each other's guts. And just intense is the best word to describe that feud, with everything from Steve Austin, when the Royal Rumble took place and Austin eliminated Bret Hart illegally and won the match. And then Bret Hart came out the next night, and Austin kept screwing Bret Hart at every turn. Just awesome stuff. And of course, to cap it all off with their match at WrestleMania 13, in my opinion, the single best match in the history of professional wrestling. That's my opinion. And can't go wrong with that. And second place, I would give Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage in the late 80s, just because, as I mentioned before, they built that matchup over a long period of time. It was long-term storyline planning. From WrestleMania 4, they had already made the decision that Hogan and Savage was going to headline WrestleMania 5, and then they slowly built up towards it. So that's why I love that feud so much, because of the long-term planning, and it actually made sense, and you had two very interesting characters, and it was everything that pro wrestling should be. Good storyline development, good characters that you have emotional investment in, and it was executed well. Everything worked out to perfection. Hey Aaron, do you think TNA could turn it around if they focus strictly on the X Division style matches and wrestlers and not worry about the big guys? Well, the thing is, I mean, ultimately it doesn't matter if the guy is 300 pounds or 200 pounds. What matters, going back to earlier, do the fans care about this character enough to the point where they want to spend money on that character or to go see that character? And it's not even so much a character, but the entire product as well. You got to get the person into it. And the problem with TNA is that fans just don't have, besides the most hardcore wrestling fans, the 1,000 people that go to the house shows, the 8,000 to 15,000 people that buy the pay-per-views, and people that watch Impact, they get 1.5 million viewers, but a lot of those people just watch Impact out of force of habit. If those 1.5 million people really cared about the product a lot, you would see, 4,000 or 5,000 people at the house shows. You would see those pay-per-view buy rates going up. So it just goes to show you that the fans really, wrestling fans tune in to watch it, but they just don't really care about it that much. It's a force of habit. And they don't need to necessarily focus on a certain size, certain look or whatever. They just need to market their guys better and, push the guys and give them a chance to run with the ball. If you focus your TV on Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, nonstop, these guys are never going to have a chance to get anywhere. You actually have to give them 4 or 5 months to where they can try to get over with the fans and develop their character and have a storyline that fans can follow and not be confused. And it's just not happening right now. And we've talked about the problems with TNA so much and what they need to do, but it doesn't seem like anything's going to change in the near future. What'd you think about the title of the Triple Crown / Grand Slam champion? Back in the day, these were clearly defined by winning 3 or 4 specific titles, but now there's so many alternate or retitled titles. Have these achievements been watered down? Absolutely, they've been watered down, and it's really hard to follow who's been champion. I mean, when I was a kid, I could name every single Intercontinental champion. I could name all the WWE champions, but now I couldn't tell you who was champion 6 months ago. I mean, the titles have changed hands so many times. There's so many titles, and it's really hard to follow. And when it's hard to follow, this is a running theme here. Fans are just going to lose interest. They're not going to have the emotional investment in it anymore. When they can't keep track of stuff, they just don't care anymore. And that's a problem with wrestling right now in general, not just TNA, but WWE as well. Do you think John Cena versus JBL should have been in the main event at WrestleMania 21 instead of Batista and Triple H, since Cena became the face of WWE, not Batista? Well, at the time, it was a different story. Cena was emerging as the top babyface on SmackDown, but Batista was the top babyface on Raw, and Raw was the A show, so it made sense to do Batista and Triple H as the main event. And considering the quality of the matches, I'm glad that John Cena versus JBL wasn't the main event, because that would have been a disaster in my opinion, because that match, as I've said before, was one of the worst matches I've ever seen live, and I think the only time I ever came close to actually falling asleep. So there you go. Hey Aaron, question for you. What did you think about Zack Ryder before he did the Z True Long Island story? To me, he was almost like another Miz. Do you see him as the new up-and-coming version of the Miz? The Miz had the dirt sheet and Zack has his show. I don't really see them as similar characters. I know people might not like this, but I compare Zack Ryder to like a Santino Morel. He's like a comic relief type character. I guess you could compare Ryder to like an early version of The Miz, like the Real World 2005, 2006, but The Miz's character got a lot more serious in the past few years, so I mean, if Zack Ryder, that's the direction I think he needs to go in. I think he needs to, make his character a little more serious if he wants to get to the next level. As long as he's doing the broski and the headbands and all that, I only see him being like a comedy mid-card act. I think that's as far as he's going to go unless he takes it up a level in terms of the seriousness. So we'll see what happens there. All right, that about does it for No DQ&A video. You can leave a comment at youtube.com/NoDQ&AW. Let me know what you think about the answers to my questions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's start a discussion going. And keep spreading the word. Keep subscribing. And we'll see you next time.